Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the two-man game here on Claibs Online. I'm Bob Ramsey. That's my partner, Matt Rocchio. And it's March Madness. It continues to be March Madness as the brackets keep rolling forward. Many of us dying on the vine as time goes on. Rock, how have your personal brackets gone?
Oh, I mean, they were dead on arrival. I mean, they were gone from the minute go. But it's been a blast of a tournament since then. So I'm trying to not get bogged down to it. We talked after on Saturday after what I thought was going to be one of the best games of the tournament, and the rest of Saturday and Sunday did not disappoint. That's for sure.
Really unbelievable. And just for the record, I only have 8 of the 16 remaining, but I have 7 of the Elite 8 on my bracket remaining. So kind of a weird deal. So there really were some really fascinating games over the weekend, and I know a lot of folks were harping on poor officiating. I thought there were a couple kind of egregious moments, but overall, I think officiating was fine overall. It's when the big moments happen, like a hanging on the rim technical that was about as poor as judgment as you could have. The high elbow flagrant 2 that kicked a great player out of a game. I think so many fans thought that it wasn't intentional. And I talked to some coaches, Rock, who said, take a look. You got a guy's arm up higher than his shoulder swinging back. That's not a normal motion.
Yeah, it's a little kind of like it's kind of like the hockey rule. You got to keep it below the shoulder. That's a fair evaluation. I think the one where there was a pretty strong consensus from everyone, because obviously we got a chance to talk a little bit about UNC Baylor, but obviously the latest game, the one of the more exciting games of the entire tournament was TCU Arizona, where that backcourt violation / hip check at half court didn't garner a whistle going either way. And pretty much every official that I've seen, every coach has just said, listen, you might argue it wasn't a foul, then it's definitely a backcourt violation, or you might argue that it's definitely a foul, but at some point a whistle's got to be called in that scenario. Somebody else has pointed out that the clock didn't immediately start didn't continue because it looked like the person who was running the clock was expecting there to be a call, whether it was a foul or a shot clock violation. Obviously, eventually Arizona goes on to win that game instead of winning it at a dunk in round regulation, which would have been wild.
Yeah.
Matheson might be my new favorite player coming out of this tournament. He's incredible. But that game was just so back and forth. I honestly didn't think we'd get better than Baylor UNC. So far we've got about the same because unfortunately the refs kind of tamped that one down as well.
Yeah, the TCU game. It's funny. My youngest son and I were watching, and as it happened, he goes, he said, "That's a flop." And then so there's a third option.
There it is.
To add to that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And he plays basketball. He knows the game. He goes, "That's a flop." And then, they started breaking it all down. It's funny. I learned and the rules, there are tweaks to rules all the time, but I had an official explain to me on the court, about dribbling across the line and stepping. It wasn't initially a backcourt violation because you got to, once you're established, you got to get 3-point, you back across the line. So, there was contact there. And if you accept that he didn't flop, you probably have to say advantage gained.
Yeah.
And if it's a flop, then you maybe give them the ball and make a warning. But it was like, nothing to see here. Go on about your business. And something happened. We might get 10 people and all disagree on what it was that happened, but I think we all agree something happened.
You're almost going full Jimmy Smits in the West Wing. In all that begatting, something began. In all that happening, something happened. Exactly 100% correct. But really, I mean, that Sunday, really, I mean, obviously Saturday you had St. Peter's, the third 15 seed ever to go into the Sweet
Wow.
16. First, the chance to be the first one ever to move on to the Elite Eight. But Sunday, I mean, you had Purdue beating Texas. Shout out to Courtney Ramey. He had another good game and finally was able to get a win under his belt at Texas, St. Louis native. But really, the things that jumped out to me, obviously, Auburn getting shellacked by Miami. And then Iowa.
It was a defensive clinic.
And then speaking of that, Iowa and Texas Tech, Iowa State, I should say, and Texas Tech showing us that if you can't shoot threes, but you can play, there are two or three very stereotypical axiomatic ways to win in March. You can hit a bunch of shots, you can hit your free throws, or you can play extremely great defense and just lock teams out like Baylor did last year. And Iowa State and Texas Tech are on that train right now, as just being defensive monsters. I love what they're doing, and like you said, what Miami was able to do to Auburn defensively was extremely impressive.
Well, all the coaches in America now, new coaches, hate what's going on at Iowa State. That kind of one-season turnaround in the first year, because now administrators and boosters are going to, what do you mean you can't do that?
I need 3 years. Don't look to Ames. It's a fallacy.
Yeah, it's a legend. It doesn't exist. It exists. That's really a terrific story.
For not the first time in my life, I'm going to compare Ames, Iowa to Brigadoon. It's not happening again.
That's funny. That's a good line.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So as we see these matchups coming up, I think the one that really did kind of blow my mind. I just didn't expect Baylor was going to lose. I thought they were a team that absolutely could win the national championship.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you lose LJ Cryer, everything kind of goes out the window. And they had another injury, and I'm blanking on who it was right now. But as soon as you have one of your best players, then you lose another key, a cog, it's gonna get a lot tougher. And then obviously when you go against a team like UNC that got like the shooting like that, I'm with you. I'm shocked that Baylor got knocked out. I really thought that they were going to be a problem for everybody. And, credit to their ability to, lose some of their best players after winning a championship and immediately coming back and having that kind of firepower and being that dangerous that we all thought they might do it again. Hopefully this means that Gonzaga can finally get over the hump. In fact, I think I hate that I'm like focusing on the chalk, but Gonzaga, Arkansas, and then Duke, Texas Tech. That's all I need on Thursday night, because I still think Texas Tech and Gonzaga is shaping up to be the best game of the entire tournament, and that's an absolute
the way Arkansas is playing, though. You're right. Those Thursday night games, we've got to be watching. Man, in fact, what I did a little cheating for myself as I filled out my bracket, little teeny tiny asterisks next to teams that I had losing at a given point, but really thought they could make a run. And Arkansas is one of those teams. Second half of the conference schedule, they might have been the best team in the country.
You were born, Bob Ramsey, to completely to completely fault every no hedge question that Frank Cusimano ever tries to ask you. Even on a bracket, you have to hedge. That is epic right there. I didn't even know that's bracket hedging with Bob Ramsey. That's a new one.
That's a new show on Claves Online.
And like you said, late Friday night, it's funny to me that the latest game on Friday night is going to be the one that's probably going to be the worst to like build a drinking game around. Miami and Iowa State, we just talked about that. That game might set a new record for the lowest scoring game in NCAA tournament history after like 1965. That's going to be, first to 55 is going to win that matchup. It's going to be a weirdly fun one to watch.
Weirdly fun, yeah.
But I'm all for Larinaga and them trying to slug it down. I'm down for that game. It's going to be a weird slog, but I love tournament. My favorite part about tournament is obviously when double-digit seeds move on. So to get 4 double-digit seeds, the worst part about it is that 2 of them have to play each other.
Yeah.
But I'm pumped. Even Kansas Providence, and I'm a Mizzou guy, so I hate watching Kansas. But even Kansas Providence is one of those games that, if it wasn't for a 15 seed and some 10, and Miami slaughtering Auburn, I think Kansas and Providence would be the game that every college basketball honk would be salivating over in this next round.
Yeah, Coach Cooley has done an unbelievable job at Providence, and I think there was a period of the season that Providence was playing the best basketball in the country. Um, and you say, well, wait a minute, only one team can be the best. I'm saying for a section of their schedule, they were playing as well as you can play the game, and that's a testament to Cooley and his staff. They're just a fantastic job. In those when those defensive teams play. And I've always believed, there are some teams that'll just go willy-nilly and they don't care about turnovers, and we just want more possessions and we don't care. But think about it. If you're limiting possessions intentionally, and both teams are limiting possessions intentionally, you've increased the importance of turnovers exponentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
So every turnover is going to matter. And so if there's one stat to watch in that game, to me, it's not shooting percentages or necessarily rebounding, but it's turnovers. And then consequently points off turnovers. And in that tight of a game, I think that might be the deal.
That's also what makes teams like Iowa State and Miami so good, is that you can be a defensive slog it down team. And I use that kind of like in a playful use of it as more than an actual, and then how they actually play the game, because the reason why Miami is they know how to turn on the Jets as soon as they get that turnover. When the hard defense gives them easy offense, they have no problem running around, flying around like they're like a team that tries to score 80 points in those short little moments. And so that's what you saw against Auburn. Even with those athletes, you slow down Jabari Smith, you make it so that Jalen Williams, just coming off the bench, not coming off the bench, but coming off the bench from an injury standpoint into the game and forcing him to lead the team, because you got out there, you got hands in the passing lane, and then you just took the will away by getting out and running and finishing your shots at a high level. It was domination, because it was great defense turning into great offense. And sometimes teams kind of lose that differentiation when you just talk about good defense.
When you talk about Auburn, we in St. Louis saw them up close and personal in the non-conference season in December, I believe it was. And the fact that the pick and roll basically was just taken away from them, which I don't care what level you are. I don't know if you saw Kenny and Clark Kellogg and those guys showing the pick and roll and how to defend it during one of the half times. It was really good stuff. But anyway, even at the highest levels, you have to know how to defend it. But it's the oldest play in the book, and it still works when run right. Yet they took it away from Auburn, just took it from them. It boggled my mind that they just shut them down that way.
And here's a great example, because I think something we've talked about that I think people that kind of gets lost when we talk about defense, and you make the point about how much it is about effort and it's not always about talent, and people think you're trying to minimize it. But I think Miami against Auburn is a great example of, you have athletes and you have a good scheme, but the effort aspect of the scheme is the difference between saying we hedge the screen this way, so we take away both the bounce pass on the roll and also their ability to use the screen to get into the paint. You write that up. That's a great scheme. You have the athletes who can do it. Now, is the effort in there to constantly play in, play out, possession in, possession out, there to run them off those kind of plays? And that's what Miami showed. And so that's a great example of how talent matters. Coaching matters, yes. But if you don't have the effort to that level, then the little cracks are going to start to show, and good teams like Auburn are going to break you down. But Miami had every effort. I mean, they were sprinting to cover screens. They were sprinting on switches. They were in it 100%. Because say what you will about Jim Larinaga. Say what you will about him in his pass stops too. His teams play hard.
Yeah, this is a gross overstatement. And podcasting is an extension of all sports radio, stylistically anyway. And I want to say one of the separations of the pro game and the college game is the college game is a coach's game, and the pro game is a star's game, a player's game. Again, a gross overstatement. Both need coaches, both need star players. I get it. But when you talk about Larinaga and you talk about coaching and styles and getting the most out of players and the team effort, you got to tip your cap to what you see some of these coaches getting from their group.
Absolutely, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we do our later in the week show. So let's talk a little bit about the NBA because I
Yes.
didn't watch a ton of it over the weekend, but I didn't have to because Monday just Monday christened me in a new week with an incredible slate, and this rest of the week, the way that their counter programming is, I don't know if they planned this, but these next two nights of NBA basketball are incredible, and Thursdays, kind of okay, which is fine because I'm going to be watching college basketball on Thursday anyway. So it's just been incredible the scheduling right now. I keep saying basketball heaven, but it just keeps being true. March has just been the absolute best if you're a basketball fan.
So what has been happening in the league is I'm looking at scores and looking at highlights and a few things out there head scratching, and sometimes I can't figure out Miami, but they keep finding ways to win, and when they lose, the other teams around them lose. It's we keep looking for some flip flops, but I think it's getting a little late for that. But what I am seeing in the East is that sort of 8 through 5, seeing if a team can climb in that grouping.
See, the big thing that jumped out to me, and I think kind of the big story right now, obviously from last night, is LeBron dunking on Kevin Love, which was fun. LeBron going to 17-1 against the Cavaliers in his
Yep.
career, which is cruel and unusual
And
punishment in my opinion.
how does this happen?
I don't know.
Cleveland's got to win that game.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
they just
know.
have to.
They have to. The Lakers are not good enough for you to be losing close games late. I mean, I know LeBron turned on the Jets because winning in Cleveland, not just winning against Cleveland, winning in Cleveland is different for him. That's why he went so hard during the
Yeah.
All-Star game this year as well. And so it's different for him when he wins in Cleveland. And so yeah, he just turns on the Jets, and that's the problem. When you lose your best defensive player than Jared Allen, the Cavs just do not have that kind of experience to withstand a LeBron James, torrential downpour like that. So it wasn't that surprising. I kind of saw it coming when you thought about it being in Cleveland. The big one that was surprising though had to be the game you referred to, which is Miami and Philadelphia, because Philadelphia did not have Joel Embiid and did not have James Harden, and Tyrese Maxey just took it all on his shoulders and went ham sauce. I mean, it was a 1-point game. They were up 107-106, and he hit a sidestep three over Tyler Hero. Next, 2 possessions later, they're up by 3 now. He comes down there and hits I'll call it a 28-footer. Just pulls up and hits a 28-footer like it's nothing. The MVP is sitting on the bench. You're playing the best team in your conference pretty much at full health. Jimmy Butler's just under 30 points,
Yep.
and Tyrese Maxey puts the Philadelphia 76ers on his shoulders and wins a game. That was unbelievable. He has taken a completely different step ever since James Harden, or right before James Harden started showing up, kind of the 2 or 3 weeks beforehand, and he has not stopped. I love what Tyrese Maxey's able to do. I love that he just said, screw it. I don't care about Jimmy Butler. I don't care that the number 1 seed in the East. We're coming for it. And he just completely slaughters them, just like right in front of him. I mean, just just dressed to the deer right there, like on the court in front of the Miami Heat. It was unbelievable, honestly.
So can Maxey? I'm not saying to do what he did last night, but can he, when those guys are back in the lineup, do you think he can be a solid third guy?
I think you were the first one that said, with this Maxi kid, they might have a big 3 on the podcast, and I think you were right then. And I think everything we've seen, in the 2 or 3 weeks since that has proven absolutely. And I think last night was a little bit of a coming out party. He's kind of been there, but last night was, kind of a regular season version of when Tatum dunked on LeBron in the playoff game. It was kind of like that, where it's the second year. It's his second year in the league. It's the number 1 team in the East. Jimmy Butler's having a good game. Bam Adebayo's out there. They're Tyler Hero. They're at full strength, but they're big 3 proverbially, if you will. And you were able to step up and do that. I mean, that was huge. And you did in front of your home crowd as well, which I thought was big. So I love what Tyrese Maxey did. The game that I watched more of, no big hot takes from. It's just Kevin Durant is an assassin, and when he gets it in his mindset that one, you've pissed him off or disrespected him, or you're not guarding him the way he believes he should be guarded, you're done. He's gonna rip your throat out, and he did it multiple times. I mean, he was literally pointing at Hassan Whiteside when they on a switch. Hassan Whiteside got switched out to him, and he was just like, okay, I'm immediately. He did one dribble, pulled up, hit the three, and then pointed at him. And was just like, oh, what are you guys doing right now, putting this trash on me? The version of Kevin Durant where he does not care at all, and by the way, and by that I mean he is cursing out fans courtside. Well, a Nets fan told him to, hey, we need to get you into this game. You need to take over. And he turned to the guy and told him to fuck off. Like, I mean, he just, like, the guy was rooting for him, saying, hey, we need you, Katie. This is the Nets game tonight. And he was just like, get the hell out of here. I don't want to talk to you. He has a complete FU mentality, and it's both on the court and off the court. And you give the greatest scorer, naturally maybe of all time, and the Nets are going to be, murderous when the playoffs get here.
Are we seeing? And I'm not trying to cast aspersions on the league. Teams got to do what they think to get ready, but it almost seems like we're seeing light lineups trying to get guys as healthy as they can be for the playoffs. You think that's happening?
I think you're seeing a league that's been doing it all year, because I mean, even last night the Heat, they were playing pretty much 100%, and going against a team that they needed to win against, but that was without two of its best stars. So you think maybe you go a little lighter. They played him pretty full minutes. They played Duncan Robinson a little light. I think he only played like 18 minutes. So that's a little light for him. But I mean, Hero still came off the bench and played 34. So I think there's some teams who are playing it safe with a couple teams. We've been talking about the entire year. Yeah. I still don't think we've seen the Bucks actually go 100% for a full game yet this entire season, honestly. So I don't even know really what to take from them. But I think what you're seeing in the East is a bunch of young teams who understand, because they have some veterans on their squad, who understand you have to learn how to win in the NBA.
No doubt.
And that's one thing that these tanking teams don't always comprehend, is that you can't just bring a bunch of talent in together and throw them together and say, okay, now you got to go win because you're super talented. It usually doesn't work like that, unless in a case of, the Thunder, you draft 3 Hall of Famers. Usually you're getting a couple of good All-Stars and maybe 1 Hall of Famer. And those guys have to learn how to win. And so I think you're seeing it with the Cavaliers, we're seeing it with the Bulls, even, a little lesser point to the Heat. To some points with the Nets, with the people around Kevin Durant. I think with those teams, Boston, I think, might be the best example of a team that's good and has talent, but is still learning how to win. And they're playing deeper minutes than we really saw like the top teams in the West play for years, when they really knew what they were, when they had their rosters, when the second half of the season was about getting those 3 30-year-olds that you signed for mid-level extensions to shoot threes and block shots, getting them in the rotation to kind of get your scheme. But in the East, which is really what I'm watching the majority right now, I do see a bunch of young squads trying to build in the last minute in a conservative fashion, but still, it's coming up a little bit, but it's not as bad as it has been in previous years. That's kind of the fun of a competitive, parity-filled league.
Yeah, that the games matter enough, jockeying for position for postseason with kind of the 2 levels, the play-in and then the regular top 6.
Yeah, exactly. And so, heck, like I said, the Celtics are a great example of a team that's growing every night they play. And even last night, they had a big win over the Thunder, but their defense slipped up completely. There shouldn't be a game where the defense has that much trouble, especially against a guy like Trey Mann, who's a mid-first round pick, who's, the first couple months of the season was averaging under 10 points. He's really exploded over the last month or two to about an 18 points per game level. But him going off for 35 when literally the hallmark of the Celtics run, other than Tatum's offense, has been a team defense that has completely stifled people. So even teams like the Celtics, who are good, and people are saying, is this an East contender? Even they can have a night where they just completely look off because they're still learning.
Yeah, so you mentioned games Tuesday and Wednesday. Hit me with the highlights, what I should be looking for.
Tonight, you can't go wrong with this one. Chicago is in Milwaukee playing the Bucks. That's 7 p.m. tonight, here in about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So that right there, again, the Bucks, Giannis still puts on a show even if he's not going 100% because I think he's going to like 96%. The Bulls, though, they got a big win last night, so they're on the other end of it back-to-back. It'll be interesting to see what kind of lineup they play because both Zach LaVine and – why am I blanking out on their other good player? Both Zach LaVine and I'm blanking on their other good player right now. Had big nights the other night. DeMar DeRozan, he's the other big player. DeMar DeRozan both had big nights the other night. So we'll see. That's a great example tonight. Check that out to see if maybe they're holding back one of them. And then in the West, you get Clips and Nuggets. Anytime you can watch Jokic, I say do it, and it's on TNT, which you have right now in your favorite channels because you watch tournament games on there too.
Is that in Denver?
It is in Denver. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Clippers are in Denver, so check that one out today. And then tomorrow night is the real fun matchup because a bunch of teams are crossing time zones. So you have the Jazz in Boston. Obviously, I'm going to be locked into that one. Can the Jazz come back from getting slaughtered in New York the other night? Can Boston come back from letting up way too many points against the Thunder despite a win? Can they keep their role? The Dubs, the Warriors, travel to Miami. Think about that. Also, they have an off night tonight, and they're traveling to Miami.
Okay.
No, they're playing tonight, but they travel to Miami, which means the usual Miami hangover will not be in play. And so, I don't do this a lot, but watch the betting line for the Dubs and the Heat because usually Vegas likes to give the Heat a little bit of a bump in home games when they get teams coming all the way from the West Coast. But Miami's playing in Orlando tonight, or Golden State's playing in Orlando tonight, which means that the chance of some Miami shenanigans by the roster are lessened. Therefore, you take away some of that Miami hangover things, and you look at the Warriors Heat line tomorrow. I'm just saying, listen, Vegas is smarter than me. They probably already taken consideration of that. But I'm just saying, usually I never bet against the Heat at home or the Lakers at home because the LA and the Miami hangovers are real things. So I'm just saying, maybe look at that one a little bit. Golden State is going to stay overnight in Orlando, probably not Miami. I think that's a big difference. I think we all know
for that reason. You think?
Yes, I think so. I think they stay in Orlando tonight and fly short to Miami tomorrow.
I can just hear it, fellas. Look, I know you want to go out. The Magic Kingdom is right down the street. Go on Space Mountain.
Yeah, no, this is
We're not going to Miami. We're not hitting the beach.
This was the trip where you made everyone bring their wives so they could go to Disney World before today's game. And then all of a sudden, oh no, your wife's here. I guess we're gonna stay in Orlando one extra night. We'll go to Miami tomorrow, guys.
We're not going to South Beach, boys.
So maybe the Dubs have a good game in Miami. Brooklyn plays at Memphis, not necessarily a huge time zone shift, but nonetheless, East playing West. And that's going to be fascinating because we haven't talked a lot about the Warriors or the Grizzlies as of late. They've cooled off a little bit. I'm hoping to change that. We're going to be hopefully talking to Rob Fisher, our good friend, about the Grizzlies here soon. They've cooled off a little bit, and so that's actually going to be a perfect time to catch up on Ja Morant, who's still playing at a borderline MVP pace against a pissed-off Kevin Durant. And I'm making it easy for you because that's the game on ESPN tomorrow night. So a great Wednesday slate taking you right into Thursday, obviously, when we get back into the college basketball. The NBA has just been it's been too good. You got Jason Tatum lining up as a St. Louis kid. You got plenty to watch in the Memphis Grizzlies, Jazz, Celtics, Heat. What else can you ask for right now?
Good. So when we reconvene later in the week, we'll be talking about the Sweet 16 and the fantastic league matchups that we'll have seen the next couple of nights. Rocc, that's a good head start on what we need to be doing. Talk to you in a couple of days.
Absolutely, Rammer. Can't wait.
Matt Rocchio, Bob Ramsey, two-man game right here on Claibs Online.
St. Louis Acura is the only Acura dealer in the nation to win the Precision Team Award for 30 years. How do we do it? By making you, our customers, our number one priority. As others increase their fees and take advantage of limited inventory, we keep our prices low because we remain committed to becoming better than ever and treating you as we want to be treated. We want you coming back and sending your friends and family to a veteran-owned, family-based business you can trust. St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.